Hi, John and Martin. Thanks for joining Do You Speak Tech with us today. We are in Zurich, where you are based. So I have just a couple of questions. You two work for Google Search. What do you do in particular? Who wants to start, John or Martin?
So I have a little screen where questions come up, and I have to type an answer very, very fast.
Very, very fast.
Okay.
No, that is very good.
So we work on the search relations team, which tries to help anyone who's making a website to make the most out of Google Search. So we try to give them information that they need so that their website is able to be shown in Google Search and that they're doing things in a reasonable way. So we work with Search Console. We create a lot of documentation, make a lot of videos. Martin is in a lot of videos.
We have a podcast, Search Off the Record.
And especially for I would say beginner audiences, like folks who don't know all of these technical details around SEO. Martin has been doing a series of videos because that's something that we found is very critical. Like a lot of people come to us and say, "Oh, I'm super advanced and I know everything around SEO," and like, please explain this very basic topic. And to us, that just shows that a lot of the basics are things that people still struggle with. So that's what we try to help with. That's what Martin has been doing video series on recently.
And I find that particularly interesting because I think for the web to be continuously successful and for people to find use in the web and for search to be useful on the web as well, we need to make sure that you all who are probably doing amazing stuff, I don't know, like there's someone super passionate about Vikings, the next person is super passionate about like some kind of Italian classic cuisine, the next person is super excited about Rome, and the next one about Pompeii and like all the history things. And I think that's amazing that everyone can contribute to it. However, and it has been easier and cheaper than ever before, because for free you can create a website in a few clicks if you want to. However, what's that going to do for you if no one finds it? So we are here to make that last step of sharing your knowledge a little easier and making sure that without having to like study or take a course or hire someone, you get the information that you need to make sure that what you're creating is what people want and also is seen by the people who want your stuff.
I have just a question before moving to the other one. Is it challenging your job?
I would say it's very challenging, and we work very long hours, and maybe it's like they should not fire us. No. I think it is challenging because it's very dynamic. The world around Google is very dynamic. The web, the internet is still relatively new. For some people like me who grew up before the internet was there, it's like something that came during that time. A lot of people are kind of have grown up in the world where the internet was always there, but it's still very new. And there are lots of ways that people can do things in unexpected ways. Companies do things in unexpected ways. And suddenly the whole world around the web changes.
Yeah, and what I also find very interesting and very challenging is that whatever we say, we have to keep our audiences in mind, right? Out there is someone who does nothing else but help other people show up in search results and rank and make sure their website is in good shape. So they have very different questions. They might be managing millions of articles. They might be managing like multiple web shops at the same time. They have very different experiences and very different problems and challenges that they want addressed by us than the person who runs a bakery and just wants to sell their amazing cupcakes. They don't have the time. They need to be baking. They don't have time to spend on SEO. They don't care about canonicalization and hreflang and local business setups and structured data. So we have to balance these very different audiences, and there's like everything in between. That's like the ends of a spectrum, and there's like so many bits and pieces in between. There's the person who has some digital marketing background. There's the person who works for a small company. There's the person who works for a multinational multilingual news website that has offices all around the world and mostly deals with breaking news that need to be like this quick available to everyone who's looking for them. And we have to bridge these gaps, and we have to be navigating things carefully. And then also, unfortunately, there are malicious actors in the community who are trying to game the system and who are trying to get their own advantage over actually serving value to their users through Google search. And we have to be mindful of these actors as well, and we have to keep an eye on that. So whatever we say has to be looking at who's asking this question, how can we help them best, what level does this need to be addressed on. Like, you might ask me a very technical question about like some very specific technical detail, which means like most people out there will be like, what are they talking about? This does that. Do I need to learn JavaScript now to make that happen? The answer is likely no, but we have to be careful with our answers in terms of, does it make sense for the person asking the question?
I would say it's a bit challenging your job, no?
It is.
It is.
Okay. It's fun. It's a lot.
It's fun, but it's a lot of fun. No, it's interesting what you're saying, because it's always a work in progress in some way, because there's always something new. And I have another question. Me, John, that I come from like the analogical era, you know. I just seen like the beginning of the internet, and I remember a lot of websites, you know. Like I remember maybe the same hype that we have at the moment for artificial intelligence at that time was for a website. The question is, does it still have a sense building a website at the day of today? Because there are a lot of platforms, as we know, like a social media or a platform that allow you to create content, publish content. And what do you think about that?
It depends.
Fantastico. Okay, let's move on now.
No, well, I think it's something where I wouldn't artificially go and say, it's like, oh, I have to create a website, but I don't know what I should put on it. Because if you're in that stage where it's like, oh, I don't know what I should put on it, then it's like, why do you want to do it? It's like, I should bake a cake, but I don't know why. I don't like cake. And then it's like, then don't bake a cake. Don't make a website if you don't know what you want to use it for. And there are lots of ways that you can be active online, that your information can be found online. You can create short videos about your information if you want. You can create a business profile if you're a small business. You can create a website as well. And all of these different ways of being online, I think the amazing part is that it's so easy nowadays. Like Martin said, for free, you can make a website somewhere, and then everyone worldwide can find you. And that's, I think, fairly exciting. But it's also something where, as a person, you have a limited amount of time. You can't just be like, oh, I can do this, therefore I will do it. You really should perhaps take a step back and say, like, well, like, why? Or what is the reason that I'm going to try to do?
Right. Yeah, exactly as you said. And I noticed that just the web and the world and we are changing all the time. So if I'm in a city I don't know and I want to have a meal somewhere, I'll look for restaurants. I likely might use Google search or Google Maps. Because in the end, it doesn't help me to find a restaurant in Zurich when I'm abroad somewhere. It doesn't really work like that. And then the question is, if I have a small restaurant selling, I don't know, falafel in Venice, does it make sense for me to have a website? I don't know. Maybe if I'm searching for it, I want to know a few things. I want to know your opening hours. I want to know your menu. If possible, the prices. Are you pricey? Are you cheap? What do I expect? Do I have to like suit up and dress up to go there? Or is it more like a takeaway kind of situation? These kind of things interest me before I go to your restaurant. If I can find these things out in Google Maps or whatever maps solution you use, fine. Then I don't go to your website because I have the information that I needed already. However, if I have a website that I can visit and I visit it and all you tell me is where you grew up, how old you are, what's the name of the cat that usually sits in front of your restaurant, And that's very cute and very nice, and you probably are very excited about it. That's why you're telling me on your website, but that doesn't help me. So then why did you build a website in the first place? And the other thing is, if you're a falafel shop in Venice, does it make sense that someone in Brazil can see your menu options? It's questionable. It might make sense, and it might be very nice. For instance, if I want to make a reservation, the only thing you have is a phone number I can call. I do not have roaming usually, so I won't call you because it's going to be very, very expensive. But I might have Wi-Fi on the airport or something, or in the hotel, so I might actually go, there's a reservation form, so I can just reserve over the form, and then I'll use that. So that is something that you might want to have to build on your website or through a third-party service or something. So that will live on a website, not necessarily your website, but a service that you're employing to make that happen. But it's a website in the end, right? And that is not something that is built into Maps, for instance. And so if I just use Maps, I won't see that you have a reservation system, or maybe I do see it in Maps, but then I have to go to that reservation system. So for that, a website does make sense. So I think if you want to own your content and have your own stuff under your control, so like you can update the menu whenever you want by just uploading a new menu, or you can like add information, you can remove information. If that requires you to be in your own website, then make your own website. If you have other ways to do that, through a third party, through a service, through another app that already exists, then just use that.
It completely makes sense. I have just a couple of questions related to Google. What's the main challenges of the website, or better, how did Google search deal with mainly?
So what are the challenge? Oh, that's a big question.
Well, it's a big question, but let's go for a John style. Let's go for a John style answer now.
It depends.
It depends.
Wait.
Fantastic. Okay, let's move on now to the other one.
That was easy.
The main challenge, I think there are two things. On the one hand, it's gotten so much easier to make a presence online, and there's so many different ways to do that, which could also be that maybe you create short videos to promote your restaurant, or maybe you work with other people who are creating these kind of videos. Like, there's so many different new ways to be active online. And the other part is there's so many people searching for things in different ways nowadays. Where when I was young, when Google came out, I had to enter exactly the keywords that were on the page, and otherwise I would not find anything. And now people can ask sentences. And these kind of changes, I think, are natural, where when search becomes more and more advanced, when people can create content in more and more different ways, they expect kind of being able to engage in different ways. And I think fundamentally that is very challenging from a technical point of view. And the average user, when they use Google, they're like, this is obvious. This should just work. This is like, what do you mean this is hard or challenging?
Yeah. Well, you just this question. Sometimes people say Google is broken now. How many times you heard this question? This sentence?
Statement so often, and it's a tricky one. So one of the things is, yes, it looks easy. You have an input field. You type in a question, or you type in something that you want, and then you just usually get what you've been looking for. However, there's more involved in this, as John said, than it meets the eye, right? So one thing is, on our side, we need to understand what a website is about. We need to understand, is it useful for this user in this specific situation? If I'm looking for a restaurant near me, where is near you? So that's where that starts. Like, where's near you? Okay, you are in Zurich. All right, so you probably want a restaurant in Zurich, and you probably want restaurants that are open as well, and not like a restaurant website from 10 years ago where we don't know if that website still has a restaurant attached to it, so to speak. And then on the other end, there are people making websites all the time. So if my website used to show up for that query that I just typed in, and it no longer does, it doesn't mean that we are broken. Obviously, you believe that probably because you try to make the best possible website. So you are hopefully convinced that whatever it is that you did is the best possible thing you could have done. Otherwise, you should have done it differently. So everyone thinks they have the best website for whatever query they come up with. objectively that can't be true.
Yeah.
There must be some amount of ordering happening, and that's what ranking really is. Like, we have to figure out, so this is a good website for this topic, this is a good website for this topic, which one is better? Because we have to present them in some order at some point. So people sometimes disagree with that. And also, as things change and terminology changes and the way that people look for things change, they might look for something that is no longer used in the world out there. I right now have no answer for what that might be, but if I'm searching for something that might have changed meaning and people are talking about it differently, we used to be calling ourselves the webmaster team. I'm pretty sure no one owning a website today calls themselves webmaster. They're content creators, they are small businesses, they are website owners, they are website creators, they are digital artists, whatever they are. But if you search for webmasters, you might not find as much as you used to find, because people have moved on and have renamed themselves, have rebranded themselves. So you could say like, "Ooh, it's broken for this term," but that's not true. The world has just moved on.
Yeah. I think if you search for webmaster keywords, maybe you find only my website. So, it's always okay. I think you already. Hopefully. So, hopefully. I think you already mentioned something about how Google or search engine in general are changed in the past few years.
Oh, I think there are like lots of problems still in computer science, in information retrieval, which maps to search engines, which are still challenging, because it starts on the one hand at understanding the web pages, which Martin talked about, but also like what is a web page nowadays? Is a video on TikTok, is that a web page? Yes. How do you understand what this video is about? It's sometimes hard. I don't know. Like I mean, when I look at some TikToks, like I have no idea what this is about, but it seems very popular. I don't know. That's one part that keeps changing. So understanding how things work, understanding how and when to crawl pages, that's still challenging. And that's also one area where we sometimes get feedback with regards to things like maybe Google should crawl less often, because crawling is a load on the environment, and we want to kind of reduce the load on the environment. And balancing kind of like, oh, we want to have everything as soon as you publish it, but only crawl when it's absolutely necessary. That's very hard. Understanding the content I mentioned is hard. Understanding what people are searching for, what that means, is hard. Where, especially in the past, when you would enter keywords into the search box, that's easy. But if you say, like, I want a restaurant, but not with falafel, then...
The same falafel from Venice.
Martin was saying. If you say, like, I want a restaurant, but I don't like falafel, then maybe a more simplified search engine might say, oh, it says falafel. I will find falafel restaurants for you. Restaurant falafel. Aha, I can help. And then all of the results are bad because you said, I don't like falafel. And that understanding of what people are searching for, that's very hard, that nuance. And that's with text, it's hard. But sometimes people also use voice to interact. That's also hard. Also, the changes of the search results page, the composition of the pages, that's also something that is hard to work out. Like if you're searching for a restaurant but not falafel, do you want falafel recipes maybe? Because like the restaurant is not, but maybe you want
the intention is different.
Maybe. Or maybe it's like the intention that you mentioned, like do they want recipes? Do they want a restaurant? Do they want information about the history of falafel or history of restaurants in Venice? I don't know. Maybe they want more short videos to kind of see how these places look. Maybe they want maps. Maybe there's even an AI answer that could be given there. And all of these different components of the search results page, on the one hand, it's easy to add more, but it's easy also to make it too complex for people. You look at the search results and it's like bling, 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 everything is happening everywhere. Then it's too hard because you want to help people find what they're looking for, and you don't help them if you just give them 500 choices.
Yeah. Something that is coming in the future, Martin.
Oh, in the future, only time will tell. We don't have a magical crystal ball that tells us what's going to happen, but I guess it's more of the same. We'll try to anticipate what people are looking for, trying to give better answers, and we have to deal with how the world and the web and the user's behavior is changing. And yeah, we'll see where that.
And you, John, what about your crystal ball?
My crystal ball. I think short term, the web and search will probably be very similar. It will evolve, of course, and all of the AI systems that are also looking at websites, they kind of look at it in different ways, which I think is fantastic because they also encourage the traditional search engines like Google to also maybe look at things in different ways. And that, I think, is a fascinating dynamic, where maybe a few years ago, I would say, like, oh, search, it's like people talk about search, but it's not very exciting. Now, when you talk about search, it's like people are very opinionated and very excited. And like AI or no AI or this or that. Like people have very strong opinions, and I think that's fantastic. It means things are changing. That means in a couple of years, my kids will be like, "Oh, you don't understand how the internet works."
Yeah,
and I think that would be fantastic because I'd be like, "Oh, well, to my time, I had to call the internet with the telephone."
Yeah, it's interesting. I would just say thank you very much, guys. The last question. Where we can find you online?
On Google.
Fantastico.
Google
Okay.
Search
Google Search Central. Okay. Is there any social media that you are using or website? Okay,
LinkedIn for Google Search Central.
Okay, Joe Mueller on Search Central, LinkedIn, Twitter, I guess.
Twitter, not so much, but
not too much, but yeah. And you, Martin?
Most of the stuff that we do, you can actually find on developers.google.com/search. But again, LinkedIn is right now the biggest platform. And YouTube. If you go to YouTube and search for Google Search Central, that's where you go. And on developers.google.com/search, you also find our help community, of which you are part of. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much for the interview. I really enjoyed you in this episode of Do You Speak Tech? And hopefully we're going to see you again.
Thank you so much,
Thanks a
Patrick.
lot.
Thank you very much, guys. And thank you to everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you speak tech?